Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Wednesday, February the 10th. Gonna run through Wednesday's 9-game slate, break it all down team by team. I'll give you guys my early thoughts, what stands out to me looking at each team on this slate, any plays that stand out, looking at the slate the night before. We'll be sure to break it all down, but before we do get started with the breakdown, guys, as always, I'd appreciate it if you would hit the like button down below. If you are new to the channel, be sure to click that subscribe button as well. Click the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You also get notified every time I do go live. Not sure yet if I'm going to be able to stream for today's slate. I do have some things to do in the afternoon, but if I get back in time to do a stream, I will try and stream, later in the afternoon if I can, but, nothing's set in stone yet. I will be back though, should be back Thursday if I can't stream Wednesday, but yeah guys, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, click the notification bell, and also, if you would like to check out my Patreon content, that is linked down below in the description. I do have a lot of additional content on Patreon. You can get access to my cash and GPP sheets that I now provide over there. You can get my core plays. You can get in our Discord chat as well. A lot of additional content is available on Patreon, so if that is something that does interest you, be sure to check that out. Link down below in the description. But yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at Wednesday's 9-game slate. We'll start off with the Raptors and Wizards game. And on the Raptors side today, really the only injury we need to talk about here is OG Anunoby. He's been out for a while. He's questionable for Wednesday's game, so he does have a chance to return here. If OG does play, I have no interest in Norman Powell. Him coming back would definitely, pretty much kill Norman Powell's value. I'm not going to pay $6,800 for Norman Powell when he's coming off the bench. I would assume the OG would move back to the starting lineup if he's playing today. But obviously, it starts with the top three guys from Toronto: Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, and Kyle Lowry. So VanVleet and Siakam, they've been playing better lately. Lowry got injured last game. He had to leave, was not able to return, but he's off the injury report, so he's good to go. His price is a lot lower than VanVleet and Siakam's. I know VanVleet and Siakam have been playing a lot better lately, but I like Lowry the most of the big three from Toronto. I think it's $7,300. That is a very appealing price tag for Kyle Lowry, especially in a really good matchup like this against the Wizards. We know the Wizards are not a good defensive team at all. They do play at a very fast pace. I mean, this is a great spot for the Raptors. This is a team that's always tough to get to when they're really, when they're fully healthy, especially now that Siakam and VanVleet have been really priced up. But Lowry is still pretty affordable. He is the guy that I have the most interest in from the Raptors today. I think it's $7,300. That is too low of a price tag for Lowry in this really good matchup. So I do have some interest in him. I think Chris Boucher has some upside if they give him the minutes. His price is starting to come up. The minutes are starting to be there, though. Last 3 games, he's played 27, 33, and 29 minutes. Washington is not really that big of a team. They have Alex Len, they have Robin Lopez, they have Mo Wagner, but none of those guys are really big centers. It's not like they're, it's not like they have a Nikola Vucevic or, some of these other centers that, Vuce. I don't want to say Brook Lopez, but there's been a lot of matchups lately where Chris Boucher just hasn't been getting the minutes. This does feel like a spot where they would give him the minutes, probably 30 to 32 minutes off the bench, maybe a little bit less. But at $5,900, if we do get around 30 minutes from Boucher today, he is definitely interesting in a great matchup against the Wizards. So I do have some interest in him. I like the price on Kyle Lowry. Lowry and Boucher are my 2 favorite guys to target from Toronto. Siakam and VanVleet, I wouldn't be surprised if either one of them goes off, given how good of a matchup it is. But, it is tough to pay those price tags for them, especially, if you're only playing one lineup, which I'm doing lately. I don't think I'm going to get to VanVleet or Siakam in my one lineup. So we can go ahead and move on to the other side of this game with the Wizards. So with the Wizards, when they're fully healthy, I don't have too much interest in any of the secondary guys. It's really just Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook for me. Westbrook, I think, is really appealing. If you look at his price on DraftKings, he's come way down to $8,400. He didn't have that great of a game against Charlotte, only played 28 minutes, but that was a blowout. I think if this game stays close, we're going to get, 34, 35 minutes from Westbrook. And I've said it this year, when Westbrook is playing his normal 34, 35 minutes, he should be close to 10K. There's no reason for him to be this cheap. I think Westbrook is definitely underpriced on this slate. I think, he's going to pop in projection models likely because, if you project him to play 35 minutes, he's going to project for probably 6x value, if not a little bit more. So I really, really do like Westbrook. I think he is way too cheap today. Even Bradley Beal, I don't mind either at $9,300. He also feels a little bit underpriced. But Westbrook is the guy that really stands out from Washington when you look at his salary. I don't have too much interest in any of the secondary guys, though. I mean, Bertans, like, he moved into the starting lineup last game. He did play a ton of minutes. He wasn't that productive, though. He's a scoring-independent player. If he's not knocking down shots, he's not really going to do much. The price tag came up. On a big slate like this with 9 games, I don't think we really need to go to Bertans as a value, even if he does start again. So, yeah, I think Westbrook's the guy that really stands out from Washington. I do like him quite a bit at 8,400. That price tag is way too low. We'll move on to the next game, Atlanta and Dallas. So on Atlanta, the price tags have kind of risen on a lot of these guys. Trae Young's nearly 10K now. Clint Capella's still pretty expensive at 8,600. John Collins is 7,500. I don't think anyone from Dallas stands out as a top play today. If you look at the Yahoo pricing, it's kind of similar. Trae Young on Yahoo, he is $42. John Collins is $31. Clint Capella is $34. I think out of all three of those guys, like, Capella's probably my favorite at $34. I'm pretty sure he did have a good amount of success against Dallas when they played earlier this year. Had 40 fantasy points in 30 minutes. I don't mind him, but like, nobody from the Hawks stands out as a top play today. We know DeAndre Hunter's going to remain out, but like Kevin Huerter, Cam Reddish have kind of been priced up to factor that in. Huerter's 5,600 now. Reddish is 4,800. Like, at their price points, I don't think either one stands out as top plays today. Like Reddish, Huerter, they'll probably both play around 30 minutes, but like I said, they're not that cheap. I think on the Hawks today, these are just like secondary guys. If you're playing a lot of lineups, obviously, having some exposure to Trae Young's fine. Having some exposure to Clint Capella or John Collins is fine. But, if I'm playing one lineup, even 5 lineups, I don't think I'm getting to any Hawks today. So we can go ahead and move on to the other side with the Mavericks. So on the Mavericks, this is a team, I've said it before, when they're fully healthy, it's just Luka and Porzingis for me. I don't have too much interest in guys like Tim Hardaway or Josh Richardson. Maybe Richardson could be viable. He continues to start and get pretty big minutes. He's been playing 36 minutes 2 of their last 4 games. He's going to play probably over 30 minutes today if it is a close game. He did have a really good outing against the Hawks when they played a week ago, had 32 DK points in 36 minutes. Don't mind Josh Richardson, but obviously, Luka and Porzingis are the guys we want to look to from Dallas. It is a really good matchup here. Atlanta hasn't been as bad defensively this year, but they're still not that good of a defensive team. We saw Luka have a lot of success against Atlanta when they played, a week ago, had 64 Draftkings points in 38 minutes, was 2 rebounds shy of a triple-double. The price tag came down a little bit to $10,800. I think there are some other pay-up options I like today that we'll talk about later, but Luka Doncic is definitely someone you can get exposure to today. I would want some exposure to him, especially if I'm playing multiple lineups. If I'm playing one lineup today, I don't know if Luka makes it into my one lineup. We got to wait and see what kind of value opens up. But, yeah, really good spot for Luka. Would not be surprised to see him put up a big game tonight. So, definitely have interest in him. Porzingis, he's coming off a monster game against the Timberwolves last time out. 61 Draftkings points in 31 minutes. Price tag starting to rise on him as well, up to 8,600. I still have interest in Porzingis, though, because it is such a good spot. At his price, he doesn't really stand out as a top play. I mean, you need like 50 DraftKings points from Porzingis to pay off this price. Obviously, he can get there, but between him or Luka, I think I'd rather get up to Luka if I can. I don't mind Porzingis because it is a good matchup, but I think I'd prefer Luka, straight up over him. Outside of Luka, though, like, nobody stands out as a top play in this game. Josh Richardson, I think, is fine. Porzingis is fine. On the other side, maybe like Trae Young you could look to, but outside of Luka, I think, that kind of wraps it up for this game. So moving on to the next one, the Pacers and the Nets. So this is probably one of my favorite games of the slate. I think the Pacers are just really too cheap on DraftKings. They're too cheap on both sites, I should say. So starting off with Domantas Sabonis, I think at 8,600, like, he's just too cheap today. The matchup's so good against Brooklyn. We know how bad this Brooklyn team is defensively. They got beat by the Pistons on Tuesday night. Allowed like 120 points to the Pistons. I mean, this team just can't play defense. It's a smash spot for both Sabonis and Brogdon. Sabonis, $41 on Yahoo. I love that price as well. We know what we're getting from Sabonis on a nightly basis. He's playing a ton of minutes. He's probably going to play close to 40 minutes in this game if the game stays close and as long as he's not in foul trouble or anything. We know he's an insanely productive player when he's on the floor. He can stuff the stat sheet. He legit has triple-double upside every night. Like, Sabonis is a guy that can go for 50, 60 DK points any night. And in a matchup like this against Brooklyn, a team that's playing fast, a team that's really bad defensively, really, really like Domantas Sabonis here. I think at 8,600, he is definitely too cheap for this matchup. And I think Malcolm Brogdon is way too cheap as well. I know he's been really bad lately. Last 4 games, 38, 24, 18, 32 DraftKings points. Like, he's really been struggling. But now he definitely gets a chance to bounce back in a big way against this Brooklyn team. Like, I would not be surprised to see, huge games from both Brogdon and Sabonis tonight. I have no problems playing them together in the same lineup either. I think both are way too cheap. Both have a ton of upside here. I like Brogdon a lot as well. I think he is a very strong play on this slate. Definitely one of the better mid-range options at guard. Miles Turner, I don't mind him either. It is a really good matchup against Brooklyn. Brooklyn's been always a team that we can target with big men. They've always struggled to defend centers. We saw Mason Plumlee have a huge game on Tuesday. Between Brogdon, Sabonis, or Turner, I think obviously, obviously Brogdon and Sabonis are my preferred two. But I don't mind Turner either. I think he is going to be a lot lower owned than those other two guys. So you could look to target him in tournaments. But I don't think I'm going to be getting to anyone else on the Pacers. Like, Justin Holiday's just too expensive. I know he's been playing well lately, but I can't pay $5,500 for Justin Holiday. Kind of the same with Jeremy Lamb. At $5,400, he's not a guy I'm really going to go out of my way to play today. Really, I think it's just Sabonis, Brogdon, and Turner, especially Sabonis and Brogdon, I like the most from the Pacers today. Both of those two guys are just way too cheap on this slate, in my opinion. Moving on to the Brooklyn side, I think Brooklyn's very appealing as well. We know that Kevin Durant is going to remain out. He's going to be out till, I believe, Friday. So we're going to get, the James Harden and Kyrie Irving show once again. We saw both these guys put up pretty solid games Tuesday. Harden, was a lot better than Kyrie, though. Harden nearly had a triple-double, had 62 Draftkings points in 39 minutes, 24 points, 12 assists, 6 rebounds, 5 blocks, and 2 steals. So he's really good with the defensive stats on Tuesday. Kyrie Irving wasn't as good, but still solid outing from him. 44.5 DK points in 35 minutes. Took 28 shots. I mean, we saw Kyrie just, him and Harden are going to dominate the usage with no KD. Harden took 14 shots, was able to contribute with a ton of peripherals. I like both Harden and Kyrie a lot. Once again, for sure, I'm going to be playing, these guys from the Pacers, Brogdon and Sabonis. So it makes sense to run it back with someone on the net side. I think between the two, I do prefer to get up to Harden today. I preferred Kyrie yesterday on Tuesday's slate. Obviously, that didn't really work out. Kyrie, nearly wasn't as good as Harden. But there is some reports that Kyrie, this finger injury that he's been dealing with, supposedly it's been giving him some troubles. He came out to the reporters and said after the game that his finger injury really sucks. It's definitely giving him problems. Maybe that's an issue. Maybe on the back-to-back we see Kyrie Irving sit because of that. I don't think that's going to happen, but it is something worth noting. This is a back-to-back for Brooklyn. I would not be surprised to see Kyrie rest, given he's been dealing with an injury. So if he were to sit, I'd absolutely love Harden. But even if Kyrie plays, I still think Harden is a great pay-up option on both sides. I like trying to get him in on both DK and Yahoo. We know the usage. It's going to be there with no Kevin Durant. We saw that Tuesday night against Detroit. The minutes are going to be there as well. He's going to play, 36, 38 minutes as long as the game stays close. I love this game to target. I think there's, a lot of good plays here. Obviously, it starts with Harden and Kyrie, and then on the Pacers side, it starts with Sabonis and Brogdon. But, some of these secondary guys I don't mind, but obviously they don't nearly stand out. Jeff Green wasn't great. Really nobody was good on Brooklyn outside of Kyrie and Harden. Joe Harris, he had 11 DK points in 34 minutes. Jeff Green had 12 DK points in 29 minutes. DeAndre Jordan, he only played 23 minutes, 21 DK points. None of these other guys we really want to target from Brooklyn. They just don't have any upside. So obviously Harden, Kyrie are going to be the two guys we look to from the Nets. And on the Pacers side, I think Brogdon and Sabonis both look like great plays as well. A lot to like, in terms of the studs in this game, the studs look really good in this Pacers Nets game. But we can go ahead and move on to the next one. So we got the Hornets and the Grizzlies. On the Hornets side, Devontae Graham does remain out, so this is something worth noting. I do have interest in LaMelo Ball and Terry Rozier with Devontae Graham out. But starting off with LaMelo Ball, $8,500, pretty hefty price tag for LaMelo Ball. He obviously has the upside to pay off this price, and we saw that last game against Houston. Played 32 minutes in the blowout. Had 50 Draftkings points. He was 3 rebounds shy of a triple-double. LaMelo, he's a guy that can pop off, put up 50-plus DK points any night. In cash games, he's not going to project out as a top play just because, at this price point, he's not going to project for probably, anything more than 5x. But in tournaments, we know the upside's there. The floor is a little bit lower than you would like for, a near 9K player. But I still like getting to LaMelo Ball in tournaments, especially while Devontae Graham is out. The minutes should continue to be there. They're going to stagger the minutes of Terry Rozier and LaMelo, so one of those two guys is on the floor at all times. Definitely have interest in LaMelo Ball as a tournament option. Not a ton of interest in Gordon Hayward. Terry Rozier, though, I do like quite a bit. I think his price is definitely too low on DK at $6,200. So with Devontae Graham out, Terry Rozier should be getting a lot more minutes. I know the minutes haven't been as high lately, but a lot of that's been due to blowout. They had a blowout win against Washington. He only played 30 minutes. They had a blowout win against Houston. He only played 27 minutes. I think in close games, while Graham is out, we're going to get like 34, 35 minutes from Terry Rozier. He's a point per minute player with Devontae Graham off the floor. 6,200 is definitely too low of a price tag for him. So, factoring in price, I think he's actually my favorite guy from the Hornets today, followed by LaMelo Ball. Don't really like Cody Zeller that much at 5,900. I think his price is just a little bit too high for me. Kind of the same with Miles Bridges, PJ Washington. Really on the Hornets, it's LaMelo and it's Terry Rozier for me. Those are the two guys that I do have the most interest in. I don't mind Gordon Hayward either, but I think I'd rather get to LaMelo or Rozier. But on the Grizzlies side, so the Grizzlies, we finally saw their starters get normal minutes. Joval had a monster game last time out against the Raptors. He played 34 minutes. We saw Ja Morant get his minutes boosted as well. He played 37 minutes last game. I think some of the other starters got their normal minutes. 32 for Kyle Anderson. Dylan Brooks, he played 37. So the starters from Memphis, it seems like they're back to playing their normal minutes. So I do have some interest in these guys. I think Joval in tournaments makes a lot of sense. This is a great spot for him against the Hornets. The Hornets have always been a team we can attack with big men. They've never been good defensively against bigs. I would not be surprised to see Joval go off, and put up another monster game tonight. If he's going to get 32, 34 minutes, he's got 50-point upside with how productive of a player he is when he's on the floor. Definitely like Joval on the slate. I think he is a really good option at 7,400. I think Ja Morant, now that he's getting 35, 36 minutes, he does look very appealing at 7,300. That price tag makes him an appealing option. I know he hasn't been good lately, but a lot of that's kind of been due to the minutes. He wasn't great last game, but if he's going to be getting 35, 36 minutes, like I said, he's too cheap at 7,300. Now, I think I'd probably prefer Malcolm Brogdon over him, just given it's a better matchup, but Ja Morant's definitely in play. Dylan Brooks, I think between him and Kyle Anderson, is probably my favorite guy to go to there. He got 37 minutes last game. He was very productive. If he's going to be back to playing his normal 36, 37 minutes, I think Dylan Brooks is also too cheap at 5,500. And then some of these value guys I don't have that much interest in. D'Anthony Melton is going to be out. Brandon Clark is also going to be out. We did see Desmond Bane start last game. He wasn't that productive, though. Only had 21 DK points in 26 minutes. Even if he starts again, I don't really have that much interest in Desmond Bane. I think the main guys I'm going to be looking to from Memphis are definitely Joval, Ja Morant, and Dylan Brooks. Those are the guys I do like most from the Grizzlies today. But I think that wraps it up for this game. We can go ahead and move on to the next one, the Clippers and the Timberwolves. So on the Clippers side, I think Kawhi Leonard does look like one of the better pay-up options today. I like him a lot, along with Harden and Kyrie, assuming Kyrie plays. But we do know that Paul George is going to remain out, so the usage should be dominated by Kawhi Leonard. I know these last few games, he hasn't been that great with Paul George out. He did have a good game against Boston, but was really disappointing last time out against Sacramento. Still, without PG, the usage is going to run, it's going to be dominated by Kawhi. The offense is going to run through him. It is a fantastic matchup against Minnesota. Minnesota's playing really fast this year. They're a bad defensive team. I do like Kawhi a good amount at 9,400. I think if you can pay up at the small forward position, he is obviously a top option at small forward if you can fit him in. Lou Williams has actually been playing a lot better lately. He's kind of looked like his old self these last few games. Been getting bigger minutes too. Got up to 29 minutes last game against Sacramento. Had 39 DK points. He does get a bump with Paul George off the floor. Does get more usage coming off the bench. I'm still a bit hesitant to go to Lou Williams just with how much he struggled this year, with how bad he's been. But it's at least good to see him playing well, and maybe he's starting to gain some confidence in a good matchup against Minnesota. I think the ceiling, the upside is definitely there for Lou Williams, especially if he does get closer to 30 minutes off the bench. I do have some interest in him on this slate, but I don't think I'm going to be going to really anyone else outside of Lou Will and Kawhi. Ibaka, really good matchup. Minnesota's been getting killed by bigs this year, but Ibaka's just hard to trust when he's not getting a ton of minutes. He's only playing like 20, 22 minutes at the most. Even at 5,400, I don't really like him. Don't really like Reggie Jackson that much at his price. Nicholas Batum, if he was cheaper, I'd have some interest in. He does get a boost as well with PG off the floor, but I just don't know if I can pay 5,200 for Nicholas Batum on this slate. I think that really does it for the Clippers. Honestly, they're not that they're not that appealing of a team outside of Kawhi and Lou Will. I don't really like much from the Clippers outside of those two guys. But moving on to the Minnesota side, Minnesota, just not a team I'm looking to really get that much exposure to today. We do need to watch the status of D'Angelo Russell. He is currently questionable. Karl-Anthony Towns is doubtful, so he's expected to be out. If Russell does wound up sitting. Obviously, that is a boost from Malik Beasley, but Beasley's all the way up to 7K. Anthony Edwards gets a bump, but he's all the way up to 6,200. Rubio's closer to 6K. If these guys were cheaper, I'd have a lot more interest in them, but I can't really pay those price tags for them, even if Russell sits. And if Russell plays, maybe you could play him at 6,800 because he is really cheap, but he's been really bad lately. It's hard to trust Russell at this point. I've kind of been a guy that's, been on Russell a lot this year. Some games he's done well for me. Some games he's completely shit the bed. Lately he's been doing really bad. He's been, just not playing well. So even if D'Angelo Russell plays, it's tough to trust him. Naz Reid, I think, could be interesting. On Yahoo, he's still somewhat affordable. If you look at the Yahoo pricing, he's only $18. I don't mind Naz Reid as a cheaper center option on Yahoo at $18. The upside is definitely there for him. He was in foul trouble last game. He also got injured late in the game last time out against the Dallas, but I would expect Naz Reid to bounce back. We know, he's playing 26, 28 minutes in the starting lineup while Towns is out. He has the potential to play more than that. He is a productive player when he is on the floor. I think Naz Reid at $18 on Yahoo is probably my favorite guy to target from the Timberwolves today, but I don't really like much on this team. Just not that appealing of a team to target, especially not, in a bad matchup against the Clippers. So moving on to the next game, the Pelicans and the Bulls. So on the Pelicans, this is a very appealing matchup. Obviously, the Bulls are playing at a really fast pace this year. They've been really bad defensively. Normally when this team is fully healthy, I don't really go out of my way to play anyone on the Pelicans. Brandon Ingram, Zion, they both have a ton of upside in this matchup, but they're kind of priced appropriately. At 8,300, I don't think Brandon Ingram really stands out as a top play. Neither does Zion. Would I be surprised if Zion went out and put up, a 50 spot against this Bulls defense? No, I wouldn't be surprised, but I still don't think I can pay that price tag for him when there's so many other guys on the slate. And I thought I had Domantas Sabonis. I forgot, but this is my fault. I should have had Sabonis in there as a core play. I don't know. I thought I put him in there. He must have got ruled out or got taken out somehow. But yeah, going back to the Pelicans, I don't really like much from this team, even in a really good matchup. It's just hard to pay these price tags for them. If Brandon Ingram was like 7,500, if Zion was like 7K, I'd have a lot more interest, but I just can't pay 8,300 for them, 8,100. Neither one stands out as a top play. Kind of the same with Lonzo, he's just too expensive. If Lonzo was like 5,500, I'd have a lot more interest, but at 66, just tough to go there. I don't really see much I like from the Pelicans today, even in a really good matchup. The pricing just makes it really tough. So moving on to the Bulls side, with the Bulls, they are a team that's dealing with some injuries right now, but a lot of the guys that have been benefiting from the injuries have been priced up. We've seen Denzel Valentine starting recently, but he's been priced up to 5,300. Patrick Williams has been playing big minutes with Wendell Carter and Otto Porter both out. Lauri Markkanen out as well, but he's been priced up to 5,500. Zach LaVine, I think, in what should be a pretty fast-paced game, Zach LaVine does have plenty of upside, and 9K as a lower-owned pay-up option, he is someone you could look to if you want to go there, but I don't like much from the Bulls today. This game, honestly, it should be a really fast-paced game, and it should be high-scoring, but it's just tough to pay a lot of the price tags for these guys. I don't think anyone stands out as an optimal core play, but I think, in tournaments, it makes sense to have some exposure to this game, mix in some of these guys like Ingram, like Zion, like Zach LaVine. These guys do have upside in tournaments in a fast-paced game like this, but still, in cash, I don't think I'm really getting to anyone from this game, or in my one lineup, I don't know if I'm getting to anyone in this game. So that really does it for this one. We can go ahead and move on to the next one. I think we got 3 more games on the slate. So looking at Cleveland and Denver, Cleveland, pretty simple for me here. I think Andre Drummond at 8,300 is still a little bit too cheap on Draftkings. He has been getting bigger minutes lately. He did get up to 36 minutes last game. They actually decided to start Jared Allen alongside Andre Drummond. If they do that, that is actually a boost for Andre Drummond because that's just less minutes that Allen can take away from Drummond when they're playing alongside each other. So if Allen does start again at power forward, I assume we get 35, 36 minutes from Drummond. At 8,300, if we're getting that, he definitely has easy 50-point upside. I think Drummond is too cheap at 8,300, but outside of Drummond, I don't really like much on Cleveland at all today. Obviously, with Allen starting, he should play more minutes, but he wasn't that productive. I don't expect him to be nearly as productive in the starting lineup. He'll get more minutes, but the production is going to take a hit. So yeah, I don't really like much from Cleveland outside of Andre Drummond today. Pretty easy team to break down, honestly. On the Denver side, there's not a ton that stands out from Denver either. Jokic is always a guy you can pay up for, but on this slate, I don't know if I'm going to be getting to an 11K Jokic when we have so many other good options like Harden, like Luka. We got those, mid-tier guys like Sabonis, Brogdon. Forgot who else, we mentioned earlier, but there's just a lot of guys in the mid-range that are too cheap today, so tougher to get to Jokic on this slate. Still a guy you can play in tournaments because he's going to, probably be low owned. He obviously has a ton of upside, but don't know if I get there, if I'm playing just a handful of lineups. Same with Jamal Murray. Same with, a lot of guys on this Denver team. Michael Porter Jr. has been starting recently. Been seeing his minutes kind of increase, but he's really been struggling. He hasn't been playing that well. If his prices come down, Michael Porter Jr. still has plenty of upside, and now that he is starting, I expect there to be more minutes available. But I still don't consider him like a top play today. I mean, this game's just not that appealing, honestly. Outside of Andre Drummond, I don't really like much from this Cleveland and Denver game. So we can go ahead and move on to the next one, OKC and the Lakers. So, next to the Indiana-Brooklyn game, I think this Lakers game between the Lakers and the Thunder, this is probably the second most appealing game on the slate. Might even be the most appealing just because of the OKC side. So OKC, they're going to be running an 8-man rotation once again. We already know that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has been ruled out for this game. Theo Maledon has also been ruled out, while Mike Muscala and George Hill, both of those two guys remain out as well. So that leaves them with Hamidou Diallo, Al Horford, Darius Bazley, Kendrick Williams, Lou Dort, Justin Jackson, Isaiah Roby, and Darius Miller. Those are the 8 players that will be available for the Thunder tonight, I assume. There's some guys that have been in the G League, but they haven't been calling them up, so I assume those are the 8 players that are active for the Thunder tonight. So Hamidou Diallo, 6,500. This feels like a lot to pay for Hamidou Diallo, but we're going to get him starting at point guard. He played 41 minutes last game in overtime. He was very productive with 42 DK points. He's actually been a very productive player with SGA off the floor this season. He has a very high usage rate. Normally I would not be paying $6,500 for Hamidou Diallo, but this is just a totally different scenario. The offense is going to run through him. He should be insanely productive when he's on the floor. He definitely has 40-plus point upside, and given how thin the Thunder are right now, like even if this game blows out, it's very likely that Hamidou Diallo still plays 35, 36 minutes. I like him a lot on this slate, and then I don't know how willing people are going to be able, or how willing people are going to be willing to pay this price tag for him. I don't think he's going to be that popular at $6,500, but the upside is definitely there with no SGA, with no Maledon, with Diallo starting at point guard. He's got, 45, 50-point upside. So I like him a lot on both sides. I think he is, honestly a little bit too cheap. He just has so much upside in this offense right now. So do like him on Yahoo as well at $23. The offense, it's going to run through Diallo and Bazley and, Horford, those 3 guys. Those are going to be the 3 guys you see doing all the heavy lifting. So I do have interest in all 3. Diallo is obviously my favorite, but Horford, I don't mind either at 6,200. He got 34 minutes last game, which was the most he's played all season. I assume he probably gets around 30 minutes again, if not a little bit more. At 6,200, I don't mind Horford on this slate. I think, like I said, I prefer Diallo. Probably would prefer Bazley as well. I think Bazley is probably a safer option because if this game does blow out, I think on the OKC side, like Horford, or I wouldn't say if it blows out. I mean, it has the chance to blow out, but if things do get ugly here, Horford's going to be like the first guy that goes to the bench. Like, he's not playing in a blowout, but Diallo, I think, probably still plays in a blowout. Bazley probably still does as well. He got 42 minutes last game in overtime, had 48 Draftkings points. I mean, if we're going to get 36, 38 minutes from Bazley, he might be the backup center behind Horford. He was last game. They do have Isaiah Roby back for this one, but there is a good chance you see Isaiah Roby actually start. I don't know if that's going to happen, but we'll just kind of have to wait and see. 42 minutes from Bazley, though, last game in overtime. Like I said, probably 36, 38 minutes is a likely expectation for him today. He should average about a fantasy point per minute. At 6,100, he is definitely viable on this slate, so I do like Diallo. I do like Bazley. Some interest in Horford, but not as much interest. Kendrick Williams, though, I think is really appealing too. So at 4,700, I think even at that price point, he does look like a solid value. He's been getting pretty solid minutes, 36, 30, and 30 minutes their last 3 games. They're just so thin right now that even if Kendrick Williams starts or he comes off the bench, he's probably going to play around 30 minutes, if not a little bit more. At 4,700, the price tags come up, but I still think Kendrick Williams has upside at this price tag, so I do like him a good amount on both sides. He is pretty cheap on Yahoo as well, coming in at $13 over there. I think he looks like a pretty strong value on this slate. Lou Dort's probably the guy that I fade from OKC just because his upside is so minimal. Like last game, he played 38 minutes, but he still only had 12 Draftkings points. Like, he's just not a guy that's going to do much when he's on the floor. Not someone I really want to get to, but do want to talk about Isaiah Roby. I think right now Isaiah Roby probably looks like one of the best value plays on the slate. He is expected back for this game. We saw on Friday against Minnesota, Isaiah Roby actually started that game. Let me pull up the box score, but I'm pretty sure Roby started alongside Horford and Bazley. So they went kind of big on Friday. But let me just check that real quick for you guys. So in Friday's game, they ran an 8-man rotation. So they had Horford, Diallo, Bazley, Roby, and Williams. So their starting lineup was basically Diallo at point guard, Kendrick Williams at shooting guard, Bazley at small forward, Roby at power forward, and Horford at center. Now, that was on Friday against Minnesota when Roby started. That was a game where Lou Dort was out, but also somebody else was out for that game. So Lou Dort was out Friday, but Muscala played. So Muscala's out today, but Lou Dort's expected to play. SGA was out in that game, and SGA's out again today. I really don't know what their starting lineup's going to be. I'd assume it's either... I assume Diallo starts at point guard. Obviously, Bazley is going to start. Lou Dort is going to start. Horford's going to start. But I would assume, it's probably going to be either Isaiah Roby or Kendrick Williams who moves into the starting lineup. Whichever one starts obviously gets a boost. But I still think they're going to play big minutes off the bench. I mean, they just don't have any other healthy bodies. Like, if this game blows out, you're going to see Roby out there in a blowout just because they don't have anyone else to play. They've shown no incline to play Darius Miller big minutes. I mean, even on Friday's game, when they had an 8-man rotation, Darius Miller, he only played 13 minutes. The game after that, when they had an 8-man rotation again, or they had a 9-man rotation, that game he only played 12 minutes. Like, they're not giving Darius Miller, big minutes at all. So I think Roby is very safe for 26, 28 minutes if he comes off the bench. If he starts, I think it's likely that he plays 32 to 34 minutes. Roby's a top value play in my opinion. $3,700 on DK, power forward and center eligible. He's also very cheap on Yahoo. He's center, which sucks, but he's $12, so he is really cheap. I do like Roby a lot. I think he is one of the better value plays on the slate. Him and Williams, I think, are going to be the guys, we definitely look to for value from OKC. And then Bazley and Diallo, I think, are both very strong options in the mid-range because, they're just going to dominate the usage, and all the offense is going to run through those two guys like we saw last game and like we will see again on tonight's game. So that's kind of what I'm liking from OKC. Really, outside of Lou Dort, Darius Miller, and, I probably don't want to go to Justin Jackson. I just don't think he has that much upside. So outside of Dort, Miller, and Jackson, all the other 5 guys are in play for me from OKC. So Diallo, Horford, Bazley, Williams, and Roby, I think, are all in play today. All 5 of those guys I have no problems with. But yeah, moving on to the Lakers side. So the Lakers, they are actually somewhat of an appealing team today, depending on what happens with Anthony Davis. So these teams did play on Monday. Anthony Davis was out that game. He's questionable for today's game. If he winds up sitting, I do have interest in Dennis Schroeder, even at $6,200. I do have interest in Kyle Kuzma, even at $5,700. Obviously, LeBron would get a pretty nice boost as well with Davis out. LeBron had a big game on Monday when AD was out. Had a triple-double, 74 Draftkings points in 43 minutes in that overtime game. It's tough to break down the Lakers right now. I think if AD plays, I don't have too much interest in anyone on this team. But if AD is out, LeBron, Schroeder, Kuzma, I have interest in. Don't mind Taylor Horton-Tucker either as a value. He played 27 minutes, had 22 DK points, but I think it would definitely be LeBron, Schroeder, and Kuzma I'd have the most interest in if Davis is out again. If Davis plays, probably just going to be a team that I kind of look to avoid, and a lot of my exposure, really just in general, most of my exposure in this game is going to come on the OKC side. But talking about the other game, the other 10 o'clock game on the slate, last game of the night. So we got the Suns and the Bucks. This is actually a pretty appealing game because we do have some injuries on both sides. Drew Holiday has been ruled out for this game, and he's going to be out, I believe, for a few games because of COVID protocols. So with Drew Holiday out, that actually makes Milwaukee way more appealing. Normally, this is a team that I don't get too much interest in, or I don't have too much interest in when they're fully healthy outside of Giannis. But now that Drew Holiday is out, obviously Giannis gets a boost, Chris Middleton gets a boost. I think both of those two guys look like really good options today. Giannis at $10,600. I probably would rank Harden still ahead of him, but I do like him a lot on this slate. He was pretty bad last game against Denver, but Giannis does get a bump with Drew Holiday out. We know he's an incredibly productive player. We know the minutes are going to be there as long as the game stays close. Nobody on the Suns is going to slow him down, so I do like Giannis at 10-6. Probably would prefer him over Luka, but it would definitely be close between those two. Harden's still my favorite pay-up option, though. But Chris Middleton, so I rarely play Chris Middleton. I never play this guy. But now that Drew Holiday is out, I think Chris Middleton is definitely appealing. He was really productive last game with Drew Holiday out. Played 36 minutes, had 63 Draftkings points, 29 points, 8 rebounds, 12 assists, and 3 steals. He nearly had a triple-double. I think it's very likely we see another big game from Chris Middleton because without Drew Holiday, he's going to get more usage, going to get more peripherals. He's just going to have the opportunity to produce more. So definitely like Chris Middleton at 7,900. And I think when you factor in pricing, when you factor in that he's almost $3,000 less than Giannis, I'd actually prefer Chris Middleton over Giannis today. I think Chris Middleton looks like one of the better small forward options. One of the stronger options at the small forward position. If you can't get all the way up to Kawhi, I think Chris Middleton looks really good, in that upper mid-range. But like Dante DiVincenzo, he also benefits without Drew Holiday. He got 31 minutes last game, was very productive with 35 DK points. At 5,200, I have no problems going to Dante DiVincenzo today. I think he is definitely in play. Bryn Forbes, we saw move into the starting lineup last game. He played 26 minutes, had 23 DK points. He's still pretty affordable at 3,800. I think Bryn Forbes is a pretty decent value. Under 4K, probably going to start and play 26, 28 minutes again. So I do have some interest in him as a cheap option. But I think that does it for Milwaukee. Like DJ Augustin, he got 21 minutes, but don't really want to go to him. Pat Connaughton, he got 21 minutes, but don't really want to go to him. So I think on Milwaukee today, Giannis, Middleton, DiVincenzo, and Forbes look like the most appealing options to me. And ranking them, factoring in price, I'd probably go Middleton number 1, Giannis 2, DiVincenzo 3, Forbes number 4, but all 4 are definitely viable on this slate. So that kind of does it for Milwaukee. Now moving on to Phoenix. So Phoenix, this is just a wait and see for me. If Chris Paul plays, I don't have much interest in anyone on this team if Chris Paul plays. But if Chris Paul is out again, I think Devin Booker looks like a great play once again. Now he did get priced up. He was 7,400 on the last slate. He got priced up to 8,100, but still, honestly, without Chris Paul, if he's out again, like 8,100 is too cheap for Devin Booker. With Chris Paul off the floor, Devin Booker should be priced around 9K. He got 54 DK points last game with Chris Paul out, took 27 shots. The offense it ran through Devin Booker, and that's going to be the case once again tonight if CP3 is out. So big injury to watch here is the status of Chris Paul. If he's out, again, I love Devin Booker, and I think Devin Booker is a very strong pay-up option on this slate. But just a wait and see for now. Tough to break down this Suns team, not knowing the status of CP3. But like I said, if CP3 plays, just going to be fading the Suns as a whole. I don't really like anyone on them or anyone on this team if Paul plays. So that basically does it for the Suns, guys, and that does it for all 9 games on this Wednesday slate. So I hope you guys did enjoy the video. I do appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed, hit that like button down below before you do get out of here. Hit the subscribe button as well. Click that notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You also get notified every time I do go live. Be sure to check out my Patreon content as well. That is linked down below in the description. If you do really enjoy these YouTube videos, if you want to see more content that I do have to offer, that is available on Patreon, link down below. But yeah, best of luck tonight, guys. Thank you so much for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next one. Good luck, guys. Peace.